Okay, so let's start with the coin metric for ETN. Right now it stands around 1 cent, just above 1 cent, which is, let's be honest, just above ICO price. For some people who bought it earlier, very early on in ICO, they would have got it for a 50% bonus, so they'll still be positive. For most other people at this point, it's just about breaking even, or you would have lost money. In any case, it's 1 cent. With a maximum supply of 21 billion ETNs, it's got around 7.3 billion circulating supply. It's also got a $79 million market cap, which is considerably down from its all-time high, but I wouldn't worry about that, because if you just look at the Bitcoin USD chart, as you can see, it has fallen and fallen and fallen, which means everything else, all other alts, will fall too. But when you compare its potential to its competitors like Tron, you can see that it's got good room to rise, because let's look at Tron right now. It's got 99 billion total supply, and ETN's was only 21 billion, but Tron's current price is at 3 cents. Obviously its market cap is miles bigger, but that's mostly because the markets it's in is considerably more, and isn't just bigger markets in general. So they have Binance, they have Huobi, they have HitBTC. Look at ETN's markets they're in. Cryptopia and KuCoin are the only decent exchanges they are in at the moment. What it tells you, really and truly, is that ETN has tons of room to grow. You can see from the chart alone that at one point it reached, I think, 20 cents. Obviously past performance is not an indication for future price, but going the way ETN's going with the release of the new payment systems, which I'll talk about in a bit, I can see the price going much higher. As long as it starts picking up more exchanges, slowly the volume will pick up and the market cap will increase, which means the price will most likely increase too. Additionally, a lot of the price for ETN will come down to the partnership it establishes. Currently it's signed with a couple of different partnerships in different countries, for example with Hong Kong Joy Telecom, which increases its user base, because after all ETN is going after phone operators in third world countries in general. But something like Tron, which has a bigger mass appeal because it's going through a different direction, it's trying to establish different partnership, and their partnerships currently are just bigger and have a bigger appeal and audience at the moment, which is why more people are likelier to buy that than ETN at the moment. That doesn't mean that ETN can't overall get a bigger audience or can't appeal to the mass market, but currently, because of the partnerships alone, you can see why Tron has a higher price and a bigger market cap. One good action ETN done that I thought was positive for an investor's point of view, the way they reacted to when they face a possible or a real credible security threat just before the launch of their wallet and their application system. So I believe just before they launched it, they were hit with a DDoS attack. This is, for anyone who doesn't know, a DDoS is a distributed denial of service attack, and it's when someone tries to make a service unavailable by generally overwhelming it with traffic from different sources. So this way it can't really reply to original queries or legit queries, because it's bogged down under fake queries, and the system just comes to a halt in the end. To mitigate this, ETN basically hired Hackerone. This is a bug bounty platform that connects businesses with hackers. Generally, it just hires hackers to find any security flaws, potential security flaws that can be resolved before the launch of a application or website. In the case of Hackerone, they have worked with massive other companies, so it shows how far ETN actually went to make sure the security threat at least was dealt with as best as possible. So Hackerone here have worked with General Motors, Lufthansa, Spotify, and Nintendo, WordPress, and even the Department of Defense. This is just to name a few of the businesses they've worked with. If anyone wants to work through or wants to see what were the specifics of the program rules laid out by Hackerone for Electronium, I'll leave a description link below in the description box, and you can see exactly what the policies were, what the rules were, how many hacks or security threats were found, and what level of severity it was. For most part, they were pretty low. So yeah, for anyone who wants to see through it, I'll link the description below. Overall, I think as a potential investor or a investor who's already invested in ETN, what it does show is that ETN took their security breaches or security threats seriously, and in a world full of scams, fraud, especially in cryptocurrency, I feel this is something that puts an investor's mind at ease, and it shows that this is a serious company trying to conduct serious business, and that's what you want as an investor. The second point that ETN has going for it, and its main selling point at the moment, is when Richard Ells and team released information about the instant payment mechanism that they've been working on for a while. So on June the 12th, they released a video showing a beta payment system that could make an instant cryptocurrency payment between a smartphone app and two different types of electronic point of sale devices. So that's just like a till and a tablet till or something. Anyways, the first one shown was a tablet system that is used in festivals and restaurants to provide checkouts for bars and table services. And the second part of the video shows how it works in a normal sales till that you find in your regular shops. So if you just pop down your shop, well, in England, let's just say you go down Sainsbury's, Tesco's, they have a normal sales till, and that's how the video shows how it would work on them. But it also claimed that the instant payment system works between mobile phone users. So it allowed payments to be made in underdeveloped countries between two people using their phones alone. Now, whilst this sounds hugely exciting and can possibly be game-changing in our cryptocurrency world, especially in bringing the mass market into the fold, implementing cryptocurrency into reality, there is one little caveat to this, and that is it shows that ETN is not a completely decentralized currency. To understand this, we need to quickly go over how the ETN project actually works. So the first part, it has two components. The first part is a decentralized entity, which is straightforward. It's the blockchain, that's the decentralized part. It's basically where the miners pick up transactions from the transaction pool and add it to the blockchain. Now the second part is a centralized entity, where it holds all the information, the wallets, the users' informations, and this is where the beta payment system would work through. Now let's say a vendor wanted to conduct a business transaction with a user. The vendor would have to have an account with ETN, and so would have the buyer. So all information will be kept on the centralized system. Now, using just a blockchain alone, the ETN's team claim that it's just too slow, because you have to wait for confirmation time, which can take minutes, hours, or even days. And that's not feasible in a business environment, because you just want to pick up your goods or begin a service, release the services, whatever it may be. It needs to be done within seconds. Let's just look at something like Visa. You just tap your card, boom, it's done, you walk out the store. But now with the centralized system that ETN have, you can purchase something and the system will instantly say that yes, this transaction happened. Now the vendor can give you the goods and you can walk away from your checkout. That's pretty much how it works. The problem is, or not a problem rather, but now at this point the blockchain hasn't updated, but that doesn't matter because it is queued on the system. So even though the vendor hasn't received his ETN, he does know it's on its way. Essentially, in the end, it's just a centralized service to a decentralized system. Now, what remains to be seen is how efficient this system will be. They are trialing it currently, and I believe there's a vendor application if you go to the ETN website, so you can see how this works and they can make adjustments and tweaks to this. what obviously we need to know is how quickly this will work, how it will work under massive pressure, a massive amount of load, transactions going through at once, and what happens if ETN's central site is taken down. Hackers attempt to, penetrate the security, or for whatever reason the government shuts it down. Now what happens then? That's an issue that obviously worries people. Additionally, crypto enthusiasts will say that a cryptocurrency should just be completely decentralized. There should be no middleman. And in the case of ETN, well, obviously we have a middleman with a centralized service. So that's another issue that people have. But ultimately, it's still very new. It's still very exciting. Obviously, I can imagine there will be tweaks and adjustments to this, but it's worth watching out for. And it is a big plus point for ETN. On the negative side of ETN's project, there was a point where Knife of Pi 2 on the Reddit made a thread, you can see from here, where it said that ETN was most likely under 51% attack. If anyone doesn't know what a 51% attack is, it's essentially when a network or a group of miners are able to control the majority of the network mining power. There's no point of me going into details exactly what can be achieved with this. I will leave a link below, but the possible effects, if I quickly go over it, would be it becomes a centralized service, and that just defeats the entire point of having a blockchain and a decentralized currency. It also has a host of other problems, such as the manipulation of the blockchain. They can cancel transactions and change transactions. They can double spend. Basically, it's just a big, massive cock-up, and no one would use the actual blockchain. Now, ETN's blockchain was showing orphan blocks were being mined. So there was no transactions on these blocks, mainly because it was cheaper to mine orphan blocks at the time because the fees were so low. Some people realized that, and they took advantage of that. In essence, this means that the blockchain itself was not safe, and if the blockchain itself isn't safe, and it's the most fundamental part of cryptocurrency in general, people won't conduct transactions, and no one would end up using ETN. As an investor, that's not what you want to hear, because if no one uses it, no one will buy ETN. ETN's value will go down. The good thing is, quickly the ETN team started dealing with this, where they forked off to a different path and made changes to the blockchain, and hopefully this should so far has stopped it from occurring again, and hopefully will stop it from occurring in the future. The problem with ETN is that wasn't the only problem with the blockchain issues. Just recently, Jaggerman13 pointed out that there's been some timestamp manipulation on the blocks on the blockchain. It's something to do with the hashing power and algorithm, and if they're able to manipulate it, they're able to block hash some at an easier rate and get rewarded for it. It's quite complicated. I will leave the description link below for you, but essentially if it continued, it would get to the point where they'd be able to freeze the blockchain for several hours at least. I think this goes back to the whole ASIC versus GPU mining the community and ETN had for a while, where they allowed ASIC mining at the beginning, early on, especially when the community didn't want it. Then they said okay, they took ASIC mining off and brought GPU mining back, but they then stabled the network, so now they are bringing ASIC mining back. Now in the end, they did manage to successfully fork away from this to prevent the timestamp manipulation. Currently, as far as I'm aware, it's working fine, and this happened in June 29th, and hopefully this does prevent any future occurrences as well. I think this goes back to the ETN team, where I believe, but I'm not 100% sure, they started with one blockchain developer. Now I've never received confirmation for this, even though I've asked several times, but to have one blockchain developer where your business is mostly, or its backbone is the blockchain, is quite pitiful. I do believe they've addressed this issue where they've brought in more developers. They were like Andre Pata is a specialist blockchain advisor. You have Chris Harrison and Ben Walmsley. So they've brought in more developers over time, and as far as I'm aware, they're also bringing in more developers down the line. As for Richard himself, I believe he's a pretty established businessman who's had previous successful businesses. So in terms of the team, looking at the team overall, it's not the strongest team that you ever see, but it's not the worst team either. So in the end, is ETN a bad or good investment? Well, that's down to you. It's how you see it. If you look at the timeline, they have made quite a few partnerships with different companies. So Hong Kong Joy, Zayas, Effitel, BM Media, Red One. So they are making progress. I do believe that some of it has changed. Some of the timeline and some of the roadmap has changed over time. But it does look like it's pushing forward. So whether this is a good investment is down to how much you trust the company and the business. As for this video, this is just supposed to be an informational video. It's not financial advice. If you did like the video though, please give it a like. Subscribe if you like. I'd love to hear your feedback on this, what you think of ETN, what other projects I should look at next, and share it out if you can. Thanks guys, I'll see you in the next video.